Go ahead.
So, hello, I'm Pierre Tilquin from Gueuzerie Tilquin. It's a Gueuze blendery. It's a traditional type of activity that you can find in Belgium. Gueuzerie is a name that was not existing at the beginning. It's normally a tradition which is more in the Flemish region and Brussels. And the Flemish name is Gueuzerie Tilquin. And it was not nice in French and not easy to try to find a name, but I decided to call my company Gueuzerie because it's a good mix between Gueuze and brasserie. So that's the first point. So I'm the first one in the Walloon region making Gueuze, but it's a tradition which is normally located in Pajottenland, which is the region at the west of Brussels, and in Brussels. And this region is also called the Seine Valley. The valley, there is a river called the Seine, and it's in this region that normally was that's the region of origin for the lambic producers. So what I do is a specific tradition, because in the past there were a lot of different blenders. Every bar was blender and was producing his own gueuze. And how people were doing that? They were buying some lambics to different breweries. There were many lambic breweries in the past, and they were buying 1, 2 or 3 barrels of lambic. And once a year they were making a blend, putting that in bottle and wait for re-fermentation in the bottle, so that they could propose to their client an original gueuze, an original blend. And so it was an activity which was much more expanded than now. Now we are just 5 blenders left, and I'm the only one in the French-speaking part of Belgium. So, I decided to begin this company because I had the opportunity to learn the job at the two best gueuze producers from my point of view, which are Cantillon and Driefontein. I had the opportunity to work at Driefontein for 6 months with Armand de Bilder. There I learned to blend and to brew lambics. Armand de Bilder was using lambics from Beaune, Lindemans and Girardin. That's the three of the lambic that I use now. And then I had the opportunity to go at Cantillon breweries for working there also. And it's a totally different way of producing. And then I learned to use the Cantillon lambic, which is totally different from the others and specific. And after these 2 experiences, I realized that there was an opportunity to take, because all those 2 breweries are producing not enough gueuze. They sell everything that they produce. They for practical reason, they cannot produce more directly, so they are always out of stock for many of their products. So that's the first point. There was an opportunity. But the second point is the passion about this type of beer, because it's a very typical and special type of beer, which involves what we call spontaneous fermentation. So spontaneous fermentation means that the brewer or the producer don't add any yeast himself. He let the wort the day after the evening after the brewing. He let the wort cool in a large bag called cool ship, and it let the wort cool for 1 night. And at that moment happens a natural contamination with local bacteria and yeast that you can find in the brewery or in the environment. And so it's a very special beer, because you never know what it will give. A normal beer, you have a level of sugar, you have a specific yeast, you know what you get at the end. Here with lambic, it's always a surprise. You never know what is the the result at the end, because there are many differences in fermentation. It depends of the temperature in the night, depends of the wind, it depends of many factors that gives every lambic is different, and that's something very rich from my point of view. And the unique thing is that it's not yet totally understood. So you cannot control everything, and that's what I think is interesting. Because if everything is under control, then you just repeat every time the same thing. But with the gueuze and with lambics, every year is different. For example, this season was very cold in Belgium. Every fermentation was different. It was slowed. I think it will give very nice lambics. They will be totally different from the one I get last year. Even though I should be able to produce a gueuze which is typically of my taste, of my brand, but there will be difference from last year. So what I think is very interesting is this variation, the fact that we don't understand everything, and that there is still some
mystery.
Yes, and that's the point. And certainly, it's a local tradition that I think it's very important to maintain locally, and that was a way of. I was not from Brussels at the beginning, but by doing this type of activity around Brussels was a way to involve me in the local tradition. And I studied animal breeding, in fact, and animal breeding in Brussels was not possible, so I just it was a way of coming back to something practical. If you look in a stockage place where you have a lot of barrels of lambic, it's a bit you feel the ambience as a stall, but these are not animals, but it's more practical, and I come back by doing that. I come back a bit to my first topic that I had studied, which was animal breeding.
You studied what?
Animal breeding.
Oh, okay. So, do you see this profession as a blender coming back? Are there more people showing some interest?
I don't think there will be a lot of blender in the future. It's a difficult process still. I was the first new blender since 12 or 13 years. The former one was the Count in '97, because it's a crazy project. I mean, you have to invest during 2 years and a half minimum to stock your lambic, to build your stock of lambic, the barrel, to buy the beers, to have the blending installation, the bottling line, and so on. You have to pay for all these things, and you don't have any return before 2 years and a half minimum. Mm-hmm. So it was a bit crazy, and it took me some time to build the business plan to manage to create that, because it's a bit crazy, and the bank were not inclined to pay or to give some money for that. So I made a business plan with the particularity that we had to have a big amount of money for the beginning, and then the bank followed us for the second and the third year. So I don't think it's that easy for a lot of people to begin a new blendery, and there is an interest growing for gueuze in Belgium and all over the world, but I think it should be a bit crazy to begin such a business.
As far as Gueuzerie Tilquin, where are you with your progress, and where do you hope to go from this point?
So I'm now selling since 2 years. I'm selling everything what I produce. So I'm producing 500 hectoliters, 530 to be exact. So it's not that much, it's very small production. And it needs a lot of, to produce this amount, I need nearly two times the same volume on stock. So if I want to produce 500 hectoliters, I need to have nearly 1,000 on stock, because in the process of making Gueuze is that it's a blend of 3 different lambics of 1, 2 and 3 years old. And so you always need to have enough 2 and 3 years old lambic. I mean, you have to keep 1 and 2 years old lambic for the next year all the time. So I need the double volume on stock that I produce per year. So it takes place, and for the moment I'm at the limit of my building. I cannot produce more. I hope to produce more in the future, but it's a long time process. So if I decide now to produce more, I will only produce more in 3 years. So it's not yet decided. For the moment, I'm just staying with the production that I do and trying to keep it of constant quality. And that's already a challenge, because it's a strange product, as I told you,
right.
And it's a variation every year. So try to keep the quality is the major objective for now.
Okay.
I hope to grow and make different products, to make fruit beers and so on, but for the moment I've got an old Gueuze on bottle, a Gueuze on draft, which is lighter in alcohol than the Gueuze on bottle, because the Gueuze on bottle is a protected product by the European Union. It's a traditional specialty guaranteed. It can only be on bottle, so the Gueuze on draft is lighter in alcohol and only 1 and 2 years old lambic. And I got a fruit beer which is a quetch, which is a blue plum lambic. A purple plum lambic.
Cool.
And for the moment I've got these 3 products, and I will stay with that until the moment I can grow in another building.